Hey, it's a special episode of Hold My Cutter here at Burn by Rocky Patel on the North Shore, just down the street from PNC Park. We've got a very special guest to join Michael McHenry and me, none other than former Pirates pitcher and longtime Pirates broadcaster, the great Bob Walk, from behind the curtain. Bob, have a seat. Grab your stogie. The LB1 is our special featured smoke. When we come back, we'll talk to Bob on Hold My Cutter. With Bob Walk, the great Bob Walk. Another episode of Hold My Cutter. I see you chuckling. I mean that. The great Bob Walk. You know, Bob, somebody is doing a story on you. They may have called you the last couple of weeks. They called me. They asked me to try to describe Bob Walk. Fort, you'll appreciate this. So I'm thinking about how people get it. Some people get it like Bob gets it in such a unique way. And I know he chuckles, and I've actually have talked to his wife Lori about it, how understated he is. He's, in terms of like a color analyst, I think he's the best there is. I think we're lucky that, I said this many times, that nationally, he hates hearing this, but nationally, that I
agree with him, so don't look at me.
I won't use the it's too strong to say they're dumb, because they're not dumb, the powers that be nationally, but they missed the boat, and we're lucky in that regard. I kind of compared them to like a
They didn't miss the boat. There was no boat. I was not going to go anywhere.
Well,
he was on a ship, Brownie.
Okay.
He was on a ship.
All right, so he wasn't going to go anywhere, but I'm just surprised that no one made an offer he couldn't refuse. The bottom line is he's a great friend, he's a great broadcaster, and he's become a great Pittsburgher. And his story, much like you, Fort, is so unique. Everybody has a story, but Bob has one that is so wild. Bob, you weren't, when you were going through Hart High School and the community college, with College of the Canyons?
Yeah,
you have
Cougars.
The Cougars. There's no way you had in your mind that someday you'd be starting like the first game of a World Series for the Philadelphia Phillies, let alone your incredible career, right?
Well, I never, everybody has the story of coming up through like Little League and all that stuff. I mean, everybody, whether you went on to play major leagues or not, there's always, coming up. And there were always guys that were a little bit better than I was, pitching, hitting, playing. If I made one of our local all-star teams, I was always the guy that had to go move and play some other position because there was a better player at the position I played on my little in-house team. So I never saw myself as like a good baseball player that was going to go somewhere and do something. My goal, not coming from a real well-off family that had a lot of money, was to try and be good enough at baseball to where maybe I could go to college and have that paid for. When high school got over with, I still wasn't in that position. And at that time, you could go to community college for like $23 a semester or something like that. It was very doable. So
what?
I decided to go to my local community college, and the baseball coach there, who Mike Gillespie, who went on to coach the USC Trojans for many years. I think he's had a College World Series under his belt.
Wild enough, I think I played with his son, Gillespie.
Oh, I'm sure you did.
Connor
he was a
Gillespie.
catcher.
Yeah,
he was a catcher.
Yeah.
Yes.
Come on.
Yeah.
And
Wild
so,
story.
Wow.
Anyway, he wanted me to come. He said, "You can come and you can play on our team." He said, "Your playing days are over, though. You're going to be a pitcher." And this was like right when the DH was coming in.
He dropped your playing days are over?
Yeah, my last day as a hitter was my last day of being a high school player. which is maybe where I hate the DH.
That's where it came from.
So I wanted to keep playing, so I went and said, yeah, sure. And so I went out, and of course, made the team because he asked me to come out. And I was not a bad pitcher, kind of a little bit of a late bloomer. And right after my first year, I got drafted by the Angels, and I held out for the big bucks. And so I went my second year and ended up doing all okay. Got drafted by the Phillies, but then I also got some offers from colleges for like free ride scholarships. No, like really big schools, like Cal State Northridge, Cal State LA, but I could go to college, an actual real college. But then I ended up getting the itch to travel and get out of the little small town that I'd grown up in. And that's why I decided to sign and leave, is I just wanted to like go somewhere and see other things. No thought that I was ever going to be in Major League Baseball. And then, sure enough, 3 years later, I'm pitching in the World Series. It was really kind of weird for me to have
3
that
years
happen.
later?
I played 77, 78, 79 in the minor leagues. In 80, I was in the World Series.
So junior college, 1 year or 2 years?
2 years.
2
Actually,
years.
the second year, though, I had what they call nowadays forearm inflammation.
Tightness.
Because you just started
I had
pitching,
some
right?
yeah.
Exclusively.
So I ended up not doing anything but sitting and watching like this second half of the season. And so the scout that had got him to draft me, a guy's name is Spider Jorgensen.
Spider. I love
He
that.
called me up like late in the year, like January or something. He says, "How's your elbow? Can you throw now?" And I said, "Well, I've been playing catch, but I really don't know for sure." And so he goes, "I can get you an inning or two in like this Sunday beer league down in the San Fernando Valley." He goes, "Would you come down and pitch? I want to see if you're healthy." So I hadn't like pitched in a game for like 7 or 8 months, something like that, like since last
Have you even thrown off a
spring.
mound?
No. So I went down there and I pitched a couple innings while he was watching. And after that, we went across the street to like a Denny's or something like that. And my father had gone down with me. And he said, "Okay," he goes, "we would like to sign you." So he offered me a contract. And I said, "Well, let me think about it." So I went home.
You played hardball?
Huh?
You played hardball right out of the gate.
I said, "Let me think about it." Well, I had leverage, I had these. I could go back to college.
Yeah, had pitched in 7 months.
Yeah.
So yeah. Hey,
Dominated the beer leaguers
this
and
kid's
ready to
gonna
go.
think about
So
it.
I was,
That's what he said.
At that time, I was working at a Texaco gas station. Back where you actually put
Leverage.
gas in cars and stuff. And I'm sitting there, and there was a payphone back in the lube room. And
Did you say lube room?
yeah, they used to like change oil. Gas stations were different than they are now.
Okay.
Now you go there to buy milk and bread. Back then it was to get your car worked on. So anyway, I went. There's a payphone there, and it was about maybe 11:30 or something at night. Going to close about midnight or so. And I called him. I put money in the phone. I called him up, and I said he offered me $5,000. I said, "Is that as high as you guys can go?" And he goes, "I can go to 7,500."
Oh,
And I said,
Wow.
"That's a deal I'll sign."
wow.
Great negotiator, too.
And then he
You ain't
goes,
kidding.
and then I remember him saying, "I'll drive up there right now." He lived like 2 hours away. He lived out in like San Bernardino someplace, a long drive. And I said, "No." And he goes, "No." He goes, "I don't want in the morning you changing your mind." And I said, "No, I promise I won't change my mind." And he said, "Okay." He goes, "I'll be at your house tomorrow at like 10 o'clock. I said, "Okay." And he showed up, signed the contract. And like I said, that was like in the middle of January. So my first experience in professional ball was going to spring training. I didn't get like the rookie league thing, in the middle of the year or anything like that. It was like going right to spring training. And that was an eye opener for me. I was totally unprepared for that.
Brownie, he went from the lube room.
That's right.
How much were you making at the gas station?
Oh, I don't know. Let's see. trying to think, 1976. I don't know, probably about $2.50 an hour.
Gas is what, less than $1?
Gas, no,
Right at $1?
we'd had that 73 thing, you know, with the war in the Middle East, and gas went up a lot. Gas is probably about $1.30 then.
And you just dropped 5,000 is not going to do it.
I didn't say what I
got
wanted.
$2.25 an hour going on.
No,
right
here's
now.
the thing. If he would have said, yeah, 5, that's as high as we go, I would have said, yeah, okay.
I'll tell you, yeah.
But why not ask, right?
But he said 75, so I took it.
Straight from the beer league
Yeah.
to signing to now I'm going to spring training in the spring.
And that 4-wheel drive Chevy pickup that I bought with that money I know where it is right now today. It's sitting at a place here in Pittsburgh.
No way.
Yeah.
You're kidding me.
No way.
How's it end up there?
Well, being Pittsburgh and that truck coming from California, after a couple of years here, it was rusting to death.
Uh-huh.
And so I didn't want to see it go into the crusher because it had been part of my family for 30 years. And so I gave it to some guys that said that they were going to restore it. And last time I saw a picture of it, it looks pretty good.
You're kidding me.
I want to know where that is. I want to go see it.
So you stayed in
That's
touch with
amazing.
these people that have it?
No, I know where it's at.
Was that your first car?
It's only about, let me see, I'm going to say it's about 3 miles from C&G.
I was just going to say, the guys at C&G then know where it is too.
Oh, yeah, they know where it's at.
Yeah. They probably
Was that your first car or your first big purchase?
First big purchase. My first car cost me $500. Wow.
What was your first car, Brownie?
Ooh, well, I borrowed my mother's car, my parents' car for first one I purchased was a bright yellow Mercury Lynx.
Bright yellow, like a school bus.
Mine,
Yellow.
Black
mine was
interior.
A maroon with a black vinyl top, 1966 Dodge Plymouth.
How about yours?
Wow. My first car was a Plymouth Breeze. It was purple.
Nice.
I called it the Purple People Eater.
Wow.
Yeah.
No wonder you end up as a Rocky then.
Yeah, and
That
then
makes sense.
I finally got a new car when it just slid into a guardrail. They still think I did it on purpose, but it decided to just go right into a guardrail as I was trying to turn.
You know, you always say, deer ran in front of me.
Yeah, dear. Yeah.
By the way,
I swerved to miss a deer. That's
Yeah, I
right.
think it was a ghost, but
Hey,
yeah,
this
you're right.
this episode's featured Smoke, the LB1. What do you think of it, Bob?
Oh,
Medium,
I like it a lot.
medium-bodied, rolled,
You know, I found out that when you pick me out a cigar is always
always good.
really good.
Especially here, the folks at Burn by Rocky Patel. They set us up real nice. Mix of 2 Nicaraguan fillers, the Condega and the Esteli, Ecuadorian Hobata wrapper, red pepper notes with some chocolate notes. A little creamy, but really
See,
nice.
I like the chocolate notes because they go good with the coffee.
Yes. Isn't that good coffee, by the way?
They have very good coffee.
Yeah,
delicious.
yes,
We-
I taste that creaminess that you're
Yes,
talking
yeah.
about.
It definitely tastes the
I'm
creaminess.
so glad I don't have to say that, Walkie.
What?
Everything that just came out of his mouth. I don't know how you do it.
How
I'm so
remember
happy
this.
I don't have to do that.
I haven't had to say it either for 30 years.
It's so
I
nice.
just sit next to him and let him
Yeah.
say it.
Go ahead, yeah.
Leonard, thanks for producing here, and thanks to the folks at Burn by Rocky Patel. Melissa set us up with these stogies, as did Ken and Jim, and great people. And Robert Vernon Walk here with us, kind of like the old, you and I are old enough to remember the show This Is Your Life.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Where you kind of break down. Well, we'll get into some real baseball, hopefully have some arguments, because Bob and I love
We're
to
going to be
argue.
here an hour, right?
Yeah, at least.
Brownie, I have a question. Did you not start pitching until junior college?
No, I pitched my senior year in high school.
And that was the first time you really...
We had 2 really good pitchers. Both of them ended up getting drafted and going on.
That's prior to
And-
pitch counts and everything,
And
right?
one of them got, what is it? They call it the kissing disease. What is that?
Mono.
Mono. He
Yeah,
got mono.
I had it. It's terrible.
And so then I took his place, and I started pitching on a regular basis, and pitched really well. I should have. You know what? I think somewhere I got my high school stat sheet. I should have brought it in.
We'll look it up.
No, it's
We'll look
probably
it up.
wait. It's probably
I want to see it.
We probably see it every time we go to LA. The Hart High School. He's like the man at Hart High
I
School.
bet they have a bronze statue
There,
there.
there are now
Huh?
since he went to Hart, there have been at least a dozen guys get to the big leagues.
Yeah, probably.
Who was the? You weren't
The
the first.
No, the first was a guy that he played there back in the early '60s. I think I can't remember his name.
Okay. But
But they got a big sign there. I went back to the high school there, the ballpark.
Get up.
with one of my kids. I just wanted to show him where I went to high school and stuff. And we snuck through the fence and walked out there. And there, sure enough, there's a big sign there, and it has all the guys that went to Hart High School
awesome.
that have played in the big leagues. It's kind of
I don't think people realize how
including
good.
Tyler Glass now, by the way, of course.
Oh,
James
wow.
Shields. Bob, if you recognize the guy's name you're talking about.
So they breed stallions.
Oh,
out
yeah.
there.
But he kind of set the tone. Michael Montgomery, Casey
Wow.
McCarthy, the Valekas, Trevor Bauer, Trevor Brown, Chad Kruder. Mentioned Jerry Owens. Might have been before Bob. But anyway.
So you did set the tone.
He did.
I don't care what you say. You set the tone.
I guess I did. I
And
don't
then
know.
those are some thoroughbreds that I'm talking about right there.
What's the cheer that every once in a while we got a Hart High School guy? You'll
H-A-H-A-R, H-A-R-T, go Hart.
H-A-H-A-R-H-A-R-T. Go Hart. So during a broadcast, he'll bring that up every once in a while.
Well, when we had like Hart High people, like when Newhall was pitching for us.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
hey, it's so funny how humble he is because baseball in California into the 2000s was so good. Early 70s, how good it was and how many guys came out of there because they got to play a lot more. You
Well,
can say whatever
no,
you
I'm not
want.
humble. We
If you
used
were
to-
hitting as a junior out there, you're doing something special.
We have a window here,
Yeah.
fans.
Here.
A lot of
Wave-
people.
wave
A lot
it
of
at-
people.
Yeah, they're
wanna
walking
talk
by.
about
See
Bob.
Bob as our guest.
But yeah, I remember one day, probably about 5, 6 years, 7 years ago, we had all those guys from San Diego schools.
Yeah.
We were in San
Yeah.
Diego playing, and I don't know, you guys were all talking about how great their teams were and their travel teams and all that stuff. So I started looking things up, and then I saw, well, yeah, they put together a travel team. They went north and got crushed.
Is that right?
So they weren't that good.
No. There was somebody recently, I shouldn't even ask you this because I don't mean to stump you, but wasn't there a player recently that you discovered was a Hart High School guy, maybe somebody of the Pirates organization even? In the last
one of
couple
our
of years?
scouts.
Oh, that's right.
Um,
Oh, boy.
we always see him in Arizona.
Yeah.
You know his name, too. I
I'll
can't
get
think
it.
of it
I'll
right
get
now.
it. Yeah.
You see his face.
Yeah, I'll get
I'm
it.
terrible with names.
Oh, I can picture him
Yeah,
right now.
I'll get it. But
That guy.
yeah.
That
But
guy.
anyway, so Bob pitches for the Phillies in Game 1, the 1980 World Series. The Phillies against
3
the
years
Kansas City
post
Royals.
beer league.
I think at the time he was only the third rookie to pitch Game 1 of a World Series, as I recall.
Yes, and now you'll see. Here's how I'm like. What do you call it when you don't brag or anything? You're very.
He's
I'm
trying not to brag.
Here's where I'm very humble.
A humble
Understated.
brag. That's a
Yeah,
humble brag.
Yeah.
I was the first rookie to win the first game.
Aha,
Pitch,
okay.
Start and
There
win.
you go.
Because I think there was only one other guy. I think it was
First?
something Black.
Wow.
Was his name?
Really? Okay.
Not Bud Black, but
Yeah,
something,
yeah.
That was it. But anyway, that didn't last long because Fernando did it the very next year.
Oh, my gosh.
So I got
He was okay.
1981,
that blew
yeah.
me
He was
out of
okay.
water, yeah.
But hey, you did it first.
Yeah.
You have that on him.
I think.
That's all right. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
We'll
There's
check with our stats guy.
We have a media guy that we both know
Yeah.
that might look something up
Yeah.
and find out that
Yeah,
I'm wrong on that.
as Blast, we talked about this in one of these episodes, but Blast hates the internet
Oh, yeah,
because
it ruins all the
the
stories,
stories,
yeah.
all the stories.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's so true. Like,
If,
let's
if
just
you
go
say
with
it with
it.
enough conviction, I think you're good.
100%.
In the old days,
Yeah.
but now somebody will fact check you, right? And you're
yeah.
wrong.
Oh yeah. Well, you're smart. You're not on social media, so they don't actually come at you and say you're an idiot or you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So you're good.
So Bob, so you pitched Game 1 of the 1980 World Series at Veterans Stadium against the Royals. Clint Hurdle and the Royals, by the way. The first guy you faced,
I
do
heard
you remember
that.
who it was?
Yeah, the center fielder,
Willie Wilson.
Willie
Yep.
Wilson.
You know what he did?
Struck out.
Yep. I knew he knew that.
Do you know what pitch?
Oh,
No,
jeez.
let me
That
ask
would
you a
have been
question.
impressive.
Do you guys know who made the last out of that World Series?
It
Clint
had to-
Hurdle.
Willie Wilson.
Oh, my
You know-
gosh.
That's right.
You know how
First
he
and
made the
last,
out?
Struck out.
He struck out.
Against whom?
Tug McGraw.
How about
So he
that?
started the World
Wow,
Series with a
that's a
strikeout,
great
ended
tweet.
the World Series.
I bet he
strikeout.
remembers that.
Let me ask you this:
What a
Do you know who
tribute.
threw the last pitch in the World Series in '79, and I threw the first pitch in '80?
The last pitch of the 79 World Series? was Grant Jackson or Teague.
Teague.
Had to be Teague.
Teague threw the last pitch in 79. I threw the first pitch in 80.
Come on.
Isn't that cool?
That is cool.
Oh, for the Pirates.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Against the Pirates. I mean, yeah, the Phillies played the Pirates.
No, he played. Who did they beat? The Orioles. He threw the last pitch of the World Series against the Orioles.
Yeah.
And the next year, me pitching for the
Phillies.
Phillies.
But your first major league game is my point.
Oh, was against the Pirates.
Right. And at Three Rivers?
No, that was
at the Vet?
At the Vet. Yes.
And who was the first batter? You were in relief?
Omar Marino. No, relief.
Don't. Okay, yeah.
Relief?
Look.
That
up-
was later.
Hey,
That was
yeah,
later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not that I rely on
You don't
Wikipedia,
get called up
but
in 3 years.
You look up anything about Bob.
Yeah.
Bob was a reliever. Much of he became a really established starter.
You know something
with
here?
the
That
Pirates.
brings up something that I didn't
were available,
realize until
is what you were.
way
You were available.
later in my career about how things work. Actually, I didn't realize it in my
synergy.
career. I realized it when I became an announcer and saw what young guys we would take out of spring training and what young guys we didn't for pitchers. And I'm like, now I see. And then I thought back to my first year, and I'm like, oh wow, now I know what was going on. When I was in Double A, we had two real good starting pitchers. Myself, I think I was on I made like I led the league in ERA and was on
Humble brag again.
postseason. I'm trying to set
No,
this
no,
up.
I love it. I love it. I'm just giving you a hard
and
time.
the postseason All-Star team. I was the right-hander. Rigetti was the left-hander on that team. So I had a very good, obviously, year. I got put on the 40-man roster, and I went to spring training thinking I might even have a chance to make this team because
Right.
I've now, for the first time in my life, I've realized that being in the big leagues is a doable thing. Until now, I never really thought that, but now
So
it's a
it was
doable
after
thing.
that year
Yeah.
you felt that way.
And so there was this other guy that was on the team. His name was Scott Munninghoff. He was a number one draft pick. He was an outstanding pitcher. Came flying up through the minor leagues. Actually caught up with me. He jumped over. He went from low A, jumped high A, right to Double A, and did fantastic. He was a sinker slider guy. Had a great sinker and a slider, 2-pitch guy. I was a conventional 4-pitch guy. So we go to spring training, and me and some of the young guys I've come up through the minor leagues, we all rented places in the same, like the general area. So we all hung out and everything. So it come time for where they were going to start making cuts. I was one of like the first 5 guys that got cut.
Really?
I think I pitched one. I had one outing.
Was
And-
it?
and I
Is
was
it
cut.
similar? Was it similar then? Like, did they do like 4 cuts? Very similar to what they do now?
I don't
You
know.
remember?
Back then, I didn't pay attention to that. I had no idea.
just knew when you
I
got
got to the
cut.
ballpark and they
Yeah.
said, "Hey, they're going to be cutting today." I go, "Why?" Back then, it was just like cuts were always before payday.
Yeah.
Yep.
They were
no
always
doubt,
before
no doubt.
payday.
Which was the worst.
Yeah, it's the worst because you've rented a place for spring training, and now instead of getting, I don't know what it was a week back then, but fairly decent, more money than I'd ever had in my life.
yeah.
Now you're down to where you're getting $40 a week. That's not paying for nothing.
Nothing.
So yeah, getting cut's a big deal. But anyway, back to the story. So then Scott, he makes it through that cut. He makes it through the second. He makes it through all these cuts. He makes the team. Never played. He went from low A
Wow.
to Double A, and right to the
Wow.
big leagues. And they put him in the bullpen. I didn't understand that. I'm like, that's, I was the first cut. And don't get me wrong, he was like I became really good friends with him. I mean, we liked each other, hung out and stuff like that. I mean, I was happy that he made the team, but I was like, wait, I didn't even
You got no
hang on
opportunity.
for a while.
Right.
Yeah.
Not even a chance.
So, but now knowing what I know and watching us with the Pirates do this all the time, they saw him as a reliever. They were grooming me as a starting pitcher.
Uh-huh.
That's why.
That would have
They
felt good to
wanted
know,
me-
right?
Because what you tell the pitcher, what they don't understand, and what if they'll get later in their careers, is that top part of the AAA rotation is part of the big league team. Those are the guys that are coming up. I mean, how many starters do you use in a year?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So I got off to a 5-0 start after like maybe 6 starts down there. And just before Memorial Day, I got called to the big leagues. And I was in the starting rotation the rest of the year up there. And at the time, like I never gave it another thought. I just thought I went down, pitched well, and they called me up. Nah, that was part of their plan, which is always what teams do.
Right.
The guys that they see as relievers, they actually have a legitimate chance as a young guy to make a breakthrough and go into the bullpen. But they're not going to have some young guy that they think is going to be a hot starter for them soon and put him in the bullpen in the big leagues. No, they're going to send him to the minor leagues so he can continue to pitch and start every 5 days. Used to actually build guys' innings up. It's kind of changed a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit.
So, that's how that all happened. And I just wanted to throw that out because that's something that I'd learned later on in my career, that it's not about when you're a young guy and you're thinking, oh, you're going to make a team as a pitcher, and you don't. That doesn't mean, oh, he's not good enough. We've got to put him back in the minor leagues. No, they might think, yeah, this guy's good enough. We got to keep him on a schedule.
So do you think guys get it even now? They could be told that all the time, but you don't.
Well, no, you don't, because you don't want to go. I mean,
you just don't want to go to the minors regardless.
Yeah. I mean, back in those days, the minimum salary in the big leagues was $32,000 a year. I went to the minor leagues and was making $1,000 a month for 5 months.
Wow.
That's a huge difference.
Wow.
Yeah.
I believe it's
So
almost
you don't-
32,000 in the minor leagues now. Believe it or not, it's really close with the new bargaining agreement. It's wild.
My father was running a backhoe for the city of Los Angeles. He worked for the Department of Water and Power. He made twice the money I was making pitching in the big leagues. That's how things have changed.
Wow, that's incredible.
Well, my dad was a really good backhoe.
Did you see the shift though? You saw the shift.
Well, yeah. It's when the TV contract started going through the roof.
Yeah.
Then I mean, every year it went up and 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 up.
Wow.
And things don't. And then when that happened, like let's say a young guy comes up and makes minimum. Well, what's he getting the next year? Like 10,000 over it. Barely. But first 3 years, you're not making anything.
Yeah.
I made 32 my first year. You know how much money I made the second year? They bumped me to 64. They doubled my salary.
Jeez.
Wow.
The second year.
That's almost like the 40-man roster.
Yeah.
When you think about it.
Now you said I was a good negotiator. You know how I negotiated a 100% raise?
Come on, you did it again?
I did it again. I went in. It was at a Holiday Inn in spring training.
So we got a Denny's and a Holiday Inn.
Yeah, who was the old general manager back then? The Pope, Paul Owens.
Paul Owens, yeah.
I went into Paul's Holiday Inn suite, and he goes, okay, and he had my contracts. He's got a little desk set up in there. And he goes, hey, I got off the phone with your agent. And he said, you just want us to sign a blank contract and we can fill in whatever numbers we want. He goes, is that really what you're going to do? And I said, yeah. He goes, I'll just sign it blank. You do whatever you want. And he goes, okay. He goes, we're going to give you 64. I go, okay, fine. He doubled my salary.
Wow.
No, I don't think. That's not the way things work nowadays.
He was playing mind games.
Well, wait, why would your agent do that? Even then?
Well, because my agent explained to me, he goes, you know what? They're going
to give you.
We have no leverage. They're going to pay you what they want
I see.
anyway.
Okay.
So why don't we just
be done with the game?
Yeah.
Just
one of his favorite sayings was, "You catch more flies with honey than you do vinegar."
Yeah,
he loves saying that.
Yeah.
He goes, "We're going to play the honey game this year. You're going to
That's
be
beautiful.
You're going to go in and you're just going to say, hey, let me sign the contract. You fill in the numbers, whatever you want." I did. They gave me a really nice raise.
Man.
They knew he wanted to be there. I think that's amazing.
Yeah,
Good strategy.
And 2 weeks later, they traded me.
Oh, there you go. Like, we're not paying this. Yeah,
That's
get out
right.
of here. Yeah, too
So,
expensive.
by the Andrew Lorraine is the guy we were thinking.
Yeah, How did you look that up? Or
No, it just came to me.
Right.
Former Hart High School guy who's with the Pirates organization as a scout.
That's pretty impressive.
His
you
name's
thought
on
of
that
that.
sign.
Yeah, we see him every time,
Yeah.
at least once or twice
I
a year.
haven't seen him in a while because I don't go to Phoenix. Phoenix was where we would see him most of the time. See him a couple times in some other places.
Is he still scouts and
Yeah.
does all that?
Yeah.
Out in that area.
So
Nice.
you get traded to the Braves, right?
Yes.
Spent 3 years with the Braves.
Yes.
How tough was it to be traded?
Bad. Well, it was
Devastating.
I'm beginning. The Braves finished last the year before. I got traded from world champions to a team that finished last. And it was an incredibly unpopular trade in Atlanta. They got traded for Gary Matthews, which was the star of their team.
My gosh.
And it was like, there was even like Glenn Hubbard, who I became good friends with, went hunting with and stuff for a few years. I remember, like, first day I was there, he was ripping the trade in the paper. One of my new teammates.
Really?
And it was like horrible.
That's tough.
But that's when, and I've told you this story, that's when Knucksy took care of me. Because I think Necro, he realized what was going on. And so I'm leaving the clubhouse in spring training, and he pulls up in his pickup truck right in front of me. And he goes, "Do you like to fish?" And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "Get in." He goes, "We're going fishing." And we went deep sea fishing that afternoon.
Phil Necro takes this
some young
kid,
guy.
wow.
Because he knew that I needed to be, felt like I was kind
Part of the
of
team.
wanted by somebody.
Did you feel like you were in the ocean prior to that? Like in the clubhouse, like just.
Oh, yeah. It was like, I mean, I just didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
Didn't know anybody.
And they didn't obviously want you.
No,
because-
they didn't like, but I mean, after, a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it didn't take
I mean,
long.
teammates are teammates.
Yeah.
You always get
It's
settled
not,
in.
they're not looking at me and saying that, oh, it's your fault that one of our best players and our clubhouse leader is gone now, because it wasn't because of me.
Yeah, they were already bad before.
Well, he was having,
Obviously.
yeah, Gary Matthews was going to become a free agent at the end of the year.
Ah.
And so I think Ted Turner made the decision that, hey, we're not going to pay him big money. We want him to trade him. And it was just kind of an unpopular.
Who else is part of that deal?
Nobody.
Just you,
Yeah.
straight up?
Yeah,
Wow.
that's right.
Wow, right?
The Braves were
Right.
smart.
Here's
It's
another,
not.
here's
It's a
another,
smart
here's another
trade.
little thing. Look, it's weird how things in life,
I know.
you see crossroads
Yeah.
all the
the
time.
teak thing kind of blew my mind. so
I
can't
didn't
wait to
find
hear
this out until years later when I was like, we were in Philadelphia, and you know how you always get those books that I never read?
They're called media guys.
guys,
some.
Yeah.
Media guys, yeah.
Okay, I'm like looking
They
through
stack up well.
I'm looking through the media guide, because I actually do read them every now and then. And I was looking at Gary Matthews stuff, because I got traded for him. I was curious about him. He went to the same high school as my dad did. Isn't that weird?
Come on.
San Fernando High
No,
School.
you never told me that. That's
Wow.
wild.
Yeah.
Jeez. You ever tell him that?
Yeah. So I say, hey, my dad went to San Fernando.
Unreal. So about 3 years, but kind of a rocky time there.
Oh, yeah, I didn't. The first year was horrible. It was the strike year.
No, yeah.
I got
81,
off-
1981.
Yeah, well, and I went from like one of the main starters on the Phillies to
What year was that?
81.
81.
81.
I was all instantly put in the number, because they had veteran pitchers on the team. I went into the number 5 spot. What happens to the number 5 guy when first 2 weeks of April?
Oh, yeah.
You don't
Skip.
pitch.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You skipped every
Yeah.
time there's all these off
All
days. You
those
can
off
skip,
days,
skip,
yep.
skip. And I don't want to blame, I should have been better, but I was mentally in a bad spot. I didn't want to be there. I wanted to be with my teammates, my team. I know they're up there. They're having the ring ceremony opening night. I'm not there. My World Series ring came in a box in the mail.
Jeez.
And I got off to a horrible start. And then
That's not easy, though.
I don't know what they call it nowadays. Back then we
Pector?
called it like a rib
Oblique?
cage, the
Oh,
rib muscle.
yeah.
I pulled-
Oblique.
Okay,
Yeah.
I pulled, I guess, what is an oblique.
Yeah, we'll say you pulled your rib.
And
I like that.
so I had to come out, and then about the time I was starting maybe to throw again just a little bit, we went on strike. And I don't know, we were on strike for what, like 2 months,
Oh,
something
yeah.
like that, right in the
Yeah.
middle of the year.
It happened right in the middle. I didn't
Yeah.
realize that.
They had that split season. The first half winner played the second half winner in the playoffs.
So they didn't have to finish
1981.
prior to the season. They kept then they went on a strike.
So they went on strike in the middle of the season.
in the middle of the year for 2 months.
Yeah,
And then it might have been 2.5 months. It was a while.
it was long. Yeah.
And then, because I just bought a new house. I bought a house in Atlanta.
Ooh.
So you're a
out
nervous
in
wreck
Stone
after that.
Mountain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now I got no
No paycheck.
paycheck. Yeah. And we weren't like, it wasn't like I got huge paychecks a year before.
Right.
I had a little extra money, though, because of the World Series bonus.
Right. And your negotiation skills.
But that was
Yeah.
I also owned a house in California. So the money was going out and nothing's coming in. So I'm sure, remember all the stories of what guys were doing back then?
Oh, yeah.
I went to Arizona and was painting houses during the strike.
Wow. That's crazy to think, guys going back and working, and think about how the union took care of those
Yeah.
guys when they were negotiating. They
Yeah.
got, what, $10,000-$15,000 a week?
So anyway, when it came back,
They should be thankful to you, by the way.
we were playing games for about maybe 3 days. And, you know, I hadn't pitched since early May. So they sent me to Richmond.
AAA affiliate.
Yeah, I
then,
was going to
right?
go down to Richmond and I guess nowadays they would call it rehab, but I had options. So they just sent me down there and I stayed down there and pitched quite a while until we got through the playoffs, and then it was September, and I was a September call-up, and I got to finish the year up there. And that was my first year with the Braves. And it wasn't one to remember, that's for sure.
Well, your time wasn't great, honestly, either. The whole time.
Well, that
right?
sounds like a tough year, right?
81, 82, 83. It was.
Well, 83 is I got off to a really good start, but then in August, I started pitching very poorly, and they said they were going to skip me a spot in the rotation, and in the meantime, they wanted me to go down to the bullpen as like an emergency guy. I remember walking down to the bullpen, and I had my tennis shoes on. And the bullpen coach, Pignatano, Joe Pignatano?
Yeah, Pignatano.
He said, "How come you don't have your cleats on?" I go, "Well, I'm just kind of down here they think my arm is dead or something, and they're going to give me some time off." And he goes, "Well, if they need you, you're supposed to be able to like pitch an inning." He goes, "You got to go back and get your cleats on." So I went back and got my cleats on. And sure enough, I pitched that night.
Oh, jeez.
Glad you got your cleats.
I was supposed to be down there for a rest.
Oh, my gosh.
And that was like the middle of August. Oh, by the way, at that time, I was tied for the team lead in wins. Me and Knucksy were tied we both had 11 wins at that point.
Oh, my
So you didn't have
gosh.
that bad of an August.
Wow.
No, my ERA was like mid fours, and I was tied. Me and Knucksy both had 11 wins.
And you were going through dead arm because of all the.
I don't know if it was dead arm. I was never a great pitcher. I was kind of a mediocre, middle of the road pitcher that had my moments. And I had a lot of good moments earlier in that year, but toward the end, my moments weren't that good. So I think I only pitched like maybe 2 more times the rest of the year out of the bullpen.
Wow.
And then, the next spring training, I pitched really well in spring training, pitched as a starter. And there's a day in spring training this day, I'm sure.
Oh,
All
I know this
players
day.
know this day.
I know exactly where you're going with this.
It's the day that if you're still on the roster, it guarantees your contract for the year. They cut me the day before that day. Sent me to Richmond, and I spent the whole year in Richmond except for 3 weeks. Gene Garber got hurt, the closer of the team. Then they would call me up, I don't know why. And I sat in the bullpen for that whole time, pitched 1 time out of the bullpen. When Garber got better, I got sent back down to Richmond. But actually, looking back on it, if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't be sitting in this chair talking to you guys right now.
Sure.
Because
Here's another one.
it's
That's
all
incredible.
that's where I met Johnny Sane.
Johnny Sane.
Wow.
Johnny Sane, the
great-
greatest pitching coach. This guy was unbelievable. And I got to be extremely good friends with him. And we would sit and talk pitching and stuff all the time. And he really liked me. He was on my side. I tell you a lot of great, things that Johnny Sane stories and stuff. But just the best thing that Johnny did for me was the next spring training. They released me.
Wow.
And
Were you having a good spring?
having a very good
So it was probably
very
predetermined.
good spring.
Right.
And I didn't really. So I went to Johnny was staying he always stayed. He had this little tiny motorhome, and he was staying in his motorhome and he was the pitching coach for the AAA team, and he was. I went and saw him in his motorhome in the campground, And I said, Johnny, I don't know what to do. I said, they want me to re-sign a minor league contract and stay here. The AAA manager had called me and had a meeting with me. The general manager, I'm sorry, I can't remember his name right now.
For whom?
For the Braves back then. He called me in. And Henry Aaron was the director of the minor leagues. He called me in, which I thought was like kind of like, oh, this is cool. I'm sitting here.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Across the desk from him.
Yeah.
And he said, hey, we still have faith in you. We want you to, you know. So the GM, the director of the minor leagues, and the minor league AAA manager, Eddie Haas, all want me to stay and sign. So I went and I asked Johnny, I said, Johnny, I don't know what to do. And he goes, well, you've been released. You can go anywhere you want. And he goes, I sat there in the meetings. And as long as Joe and Gibby are.
Joe Torre and Bob, how about Joe Torre's the manager? Bob Gibson's the pitching coach.
As long as those
Atlanta
two
Braves.
guys are here,
Wow.
Hall of Famers.
he goes, they don't care for you too much. He goes, and obviously that's why you've been
That guy
released.
changed your life.
Yeah. He goes,
Wow.
you need to get out while you can and go somewhere else and start over. And so, and I go, man, I don't know the first thing about this. I go, I guess I'll just have to call my agent and have him start making phone calls. And he goes, I'll tell you what. He goes, my best friend in baseball is Chuck Tanner. He goes, I'll give Chuck a call and see if he can do anything for you.
Wow.
So then I get a phone call. I gave Johnny my phone number in my apartment, and Chuck Tanner calls my apartment down in spring training during.
The manager of the Pittsburgh Pirates.
I mean, but think
Called.
about think
about that.
And
How
he
crazy
says,
is this?
I just
the
got
names
off,
he's dropped is just kind of
Yeah, no, I
remarkable
know.
to
he
me.
goes, I just got off the phone with Johnny, and he says that you're definitely a major league pitcher, and he thinks that you can help us. He goes, right now, he goes, it's the last day of spring training. He goes, there's no way I got a spot for you right now. But he goes, if you'll sign a AAA contract with us, go to Hawaii. He goes,
Yes, please.
He goes, if July comes around and I can't get you the big leagues with us, he goes, I'll give you my word, I'll get you the big leagues with somebody.
Wow.
And I said, okay,
Done.
let me sign. So then I signed with the Pirates. And
How awesome was that, by the way, going to Hawaii?
And went to Hawaii. It was awesome.
I got
It
to
was
play
amazing.
a fall league there, and I loved it.
Yeah, it was awesome.
That's awesome.
And we had a great team, especially at home. We destroyed everybody. I pitched phenomenal. I think I've led the PCL in ERA.
Which, by the way,
And,
PCL is not an easy place to pitch.
And sure enough, they released an outfielder to call me up. And at the time, you'll remember this, the Pirates team was struggling, but it was because they couldn't score runs at all.
Mm-hmm.
I think they
The
ended up
pitching was
leading the team
tremendous,
in
yeah.
ERA. They led the National League in ERA.
Pitching
team
staff
ERA.
is incredible.
They had
They
a great pitching
released the
staff
outfielder
to call
bring-
me up.
That means
to a
you're
team,
really throwing
to a
good.
team that the last thing they needed
He's pitching.
was pitching. But then the other side of that coin is they had nobody that was hitting the ball, so it didn't matter. They released an outfielder. I think the outfielder they released, was Amos Otis,
Oh, I bet you're right.
Wow.
who hit a home run off me in the World Series.
In the World Series in
a couple
1980,
years
the
before.
former
No
Royals.
way.
Crossroads.
It's incredible.
You got your payback. Got your payback.
I don't know. I don't think that's payback. But
Well, what's funny
Yeah.
about talk about the Crossroads and the. By the way, I think John Mullen was the GM in 1984.
yes, it was
for the
John
Atlanta
Mullen.
Braves.
Yes.
You end up, fast forward, pitching one of the great games in Three River Stadium history against the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah.
Pirates are down 3-1 in the National League Championship
Crossroads.
Series of
Full
1992.
circle.
They have to win this game. And Bob, he's talked about this before. And I was going to ask you one of your most proud moments, most nervous moments on the baseball field, but I wasn't there then in 1992. But from what I hear, it was one of the most electric, loud sports moments in Pittsburgh history.
The only thing I think it was the blackout game.
Yeah, the 2013
It was-
wild card game, maybe close to that,
It
right?
was close. It wasn't as good as that, but it was close to that. It was like I thought I literally thought that the stands might fall because of the way people were jumping.
Yeah,
and
you could
especially
see-
on the old ones that would move around.
Yeah,
you could see him bouncing up and down. It was like,
so cool.
wow. It was crazy.
So Bob pitches a complete game
He's
to get it
he's
down.
got the best view ever.
Yeah, he's a complete game to send it down to Game 6. Of course, they ended up losing Game 7. That Sid Bream slide across home plate. But did you tell me once that you in that game took an extra moment toward the end of that game?
No, that was a game the next year in Atlanta. Oh wait, no, it was
I know you did your final Pirate game.
the year before that in Atlanta. The year before, I pitched, I think, completely out of the bullpen in the playoff.
Oh,
And I would come into a game, and at one moment I'm out there and the bases are loaded, and it was a 3-2 count on Sid Bream, crossroads.
oh, jeez,
And
incredible.
You can't make this stuff up.
It's incredible.
It's incredible.
it's a tie game. It's a 3-2 count, 2 outs, tie game, Sid's up. And
Here we go.
The place is doing this.
Oh boy, the chop.
And it was just like, there's not a seat in that old Brown Stadium down in Atlanta,
Yeah.
Fulton County.
Fulton County Stadium.
And it was incredibly loud. And I stepped off the back of the mound just for a moment, and I'm just looking around, and I'm going, this is why we really,
Yes.
in my mind, this is why you play.
Yes.
Well, I cannot.
For something like this.
Yes.
I can't
I will
imagine.
never be in this moment again in my life.
The fact
And I
you
just-
took the
But he
time to step off.
do that. Like, can you imagine a
No.
pitcher doing that?
No, I would have gone faster.
So
It's crazy.
I looked up and I'm looking, and I can remember after the game, Tommy Sant said that
Pirates first base coach.
the skipper, Hall of Famer, Leland, he turned to him and said, probably not in these, using more colorful words than I'm going to use, what is he doing? What's going on? And Tommy said, don't worry, he's just taking it all in. He'll be fine.
Now, again, so much stuff here, but Tommy Sant was your manager in
Hawaii.
Hawaii. Tommy Sant, a former big league player who was one of our favorite people. He passed away a couple years ago, but just a great baseball person, a great guy, and was your manager in Hawaii and gave you an opportunity, did he not, to manage the team?
I had 2 games.
He explain that.
All right. By the way,
While you're playing.
by the way, though, I threw a curveball to City, popped it
Oh
up. and it
yeah,
was over.
jeez.
I was about to say, I
buried the
wanted to know
lead
what
there.
happened.
How about that?
So you got back on, and
Wait, you threw a curveball.
did you shake to it, or did it come right down?
And got
I don't know.
Because I bet Spanky's catching.
I don't know who was catching. I can't remember that. But
I know he
I
loves
can
your curveball.
remember getting up on there thinking, okay, I can throw a fastball for a strike. I can throw a curveball for a strike too, but it won't be a very good one. It's not going to be like, a high spin curveball. It's going to be like a little,
You got him with the
Yeah.
speed difference.
I'm just going to like kind of flick it in there. It's got to be a strike. I can't walk into a possible winning run.
Yeah.
So I just threw him like a little backdoor curveball, and he had a good swing at it. We popped it up,
Wow.
thank goodness. What did you just ask
so
me?
that's get a chance to manage.
Oh, yeah. Okay, we had wrapped up the first half.
In Hawaii,
Yeah,
you're
actually,
playing.
this was in Calgary.
So he's a player.
Yeah, in Calgary. And we're out in the evening having some coffees like I am tonight.
It was like $48 too, because Hawaii's expensive.
This was in Calgary.
Oh, Calgary.
It's Canadian dollars. They're cheap.
Yeah, true.
So
true.
anyway, we're out. It's after a game. It's fairly late, but it's Calgary. Sun's still up.
Hawaii,
And
Calgary.
we've clinched now. We got 2 games left before we start the second half. And Tommy is complaining about how we're not scoring any runs. And so me, after having several coffees, I'm like a little bold, and I said, well, maybe it's your managing. I go, let me manage. I said, I'll score some runs. And he goes, okay, fine. He goes, you're managing them all. He goes, I want to be like you. I'm going to sit down in the corner of the dugout, pull my hat over my face, and go to sleep. He goes,
Yes.
you're managing.
Now, when he says this, do you really believe he's going to let you manage?
No, I get there the next day.
Yeah, I mean, he was still hyped up on his coffee.
And the next day, I get there, and he just kind of like hands me like all of his like little raw things. And he goes, the only thing he told me, we had this veteran left-hander. I think it was Dave Tomlin. You remember Dave Tomlin?
Yeah.
He was an older guy. He was in our bullpen. He goes, "I'll give you one thing of advice. If you're in a tough spot, you need to get an out. You see it happen. Get Tomlin up. He's the only guy that," he goes, you'll really depend on." He goes, "That's the guy you want to use." So I said, "Okay."
So he gave you a little bit of wisdom.
Did he write the lineup for you?
Yeah,
Must
I
have.
think he did write
Okay,
the lineup.
Okay.
So he handed you a.
He handed me a lineup and said,
Okay.
"Okay." But then he went down there and they didn't say a word the whole time. I managed the whole time. And
What was that like?
it was
nerve-wracking?
Fun. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, we lost like
You
Got
didn't
two
score
hit.
runs?
we lost like 15-12.
Oh,
you
you
scored
scored
runs, though.
runs.
Yeah, I used everybody in the bullpen got to pitch. So after the game, we're out again having coffees, and I'm like saying, "Hey, we scored runs." He goes, "Yeah, but you got to win the game." I go, "You gave up 15."
Didn't tell me that.
It was something ridiculous in the score.
Used the whole
And,
bullpen.
and yeah, he goes, "We got no one to pitch tomorrow." And he goes, "I'll tell you what." He goes, "I'll let you manage tomorrow." And he goes, "You don't have to score a lot of runs, but you got to win." Well, I ended up getting killed, like this time 15-0. We don't score any runs. I used the entire bullpen again the second day in a row. My last pitcher for the last 2 innings is Mitchell Page.
Oh, for a position
Yeah.
player, big leaguer.
And the thing about Mitchell is he didn't know how to pitch from a stretch. He had never pitched before. He didn't know how to do it. So he kept stretching like it was a wind. He'd go like, and then just like go. And like the first 2 pitches he throws, he got called box on. So I'm going out to like talk to him. And the plate umpire meets me halfway because I keep showing Mitchell, you got to like come to stop like this, and then you got to pitch. And Mitchell's like, look, he's got them glasses on, he's like nodding at me, and but he keeps doing the same thing, balk, 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 and we're getting killed anyway. So the play umpire meets me halfway, and he goes, "Don't worry about it." He goes, "There will be no more balks, just let him go." And I said, "All right." And so then he just pitched however he wanted, and that was it.
Well, I can't imagine. Well, it will never happen this day
My
and age.
favorite part is he's going out to the mound.
But how about this? He's managing. He's using everybody in the bullpen. What are the guys in the big leagues? The farm director, the GM. What are they thinking? The Pirates.
There's probably.
Are they?
I guarantee they don't know. Who knows? It's not like now that people know.
Yeah.
We were up in the way up Calgary, Canada.
yeah.
We're in another part of the world. I don't think Tommy was writing in his notes that Bob managed today.
No, but he still has to answer
game
every
report.
The next day
And
they
they
get
did
those game
clinch, at
reports that the farm director will call the manager, say what happened last night. I'd love to know what that conversation must have been like.
I bet that was outstanding.
I don't.
And I would
don't
love to know what your teammates thought at Calgary.
They loved it.
They did.
I was putting hit and runs on with our 3-4 hitters.
Oh.
I mean, it was like,
Anything
and
to
they were
score,
loving
anything
it.
to win.
They were like coming back to the dugout. They were laughing. They go, "Yeah, great hit and run, yeah."
By the
Yeah,
way, so Bob managed those two. He doesn't talk about this
So
much.
0 for 2
but
so
he's
far.
0 and 2. But he was under serious consideration. Got a great interview to manage the Pittsburgh Pirates many years later.
100 years ago.
Is that something you really wanted to do, or is it something that obviously I
Well,
think
no,
you're a
that would have
baseball
been
savant.
as a ex-player and that stuff, and a guy that had made his lifetime home in Pittsburgh. That would have been a dream job. Yeah,
Yeah.
been
You'd have
awesome.
been great at it.
It'd been awesome, but it didn't happen, and then after that, it kind of like it had passed now,
Right.
and
When you say it passed, do you think it's because
I got to the point to where I wouldn't want, even if the opportunity came up again, I would have said, no, I'm where I need to be. But at that time, I think I'd only been
announcing for
I'd been
maybe-
announcing for maybe 3 years.
Okay.
So, I was still.
And there had been success not too long before that. Larry Durker, who a former pitcher for the Houston Astros, longtime color broadcaster for the Astros, they plucked him out of the booth and he managed the Astros and did pretty well. But what was the interview?
I didn't pursue that. I didn't ask
No,
for
I know.
this.
They came to you,
Yeah.
which is really cool. I wish that happened more often in today's game. But
I
yeah,
was
I
up.
think it's so cool.
I was up steelhead fishing up in Erie.
Of course.
Yeah,
Back out.
and I
back
got
out
home,
pitching.
and this was before cell phones and stuff. And I was out there for a couple of days after the season, and I got home, and Larry says, "Hey, Cam Boniface has been calling here. He needs to talk to you." And so I wish I would have been there when he first called him.
What was
But,
the interview
I mean-
process like? Do you remember that?
The interview process? Well, when I first in, it wasn't for an interview. He goes, I just want to come in and pick your brain about the team. And he had one of these things sitting on his desk. He goes, once you come in, we'll have lunch. And so I came in, and he had one of these, and he asked me a million questions. And I mean, he filled like 20 pages of this stuff up. And he wrote down, he took all these notes
That's
and
amazing.
stuff.
That's amazing.
And he asked me about like, who should we be looking for the next manager? What should he be like? All these different questions about the team, about the pitching. What do you think's going wrong right now? What do we need to change? It was very. So I walked into his office at noon, and time flew. When I walked out of the ballpark to get in my car, it was dark outside.
Wow.
So that's how long our
That's
meeting
when you
went
know
for.
you love what
Yeah.
you're doing.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So I got home, and I told Lori about everything, and she goes, well, does he want you to manage? I go, I don't know. It was like there was all these hints that he did, but he never came out and asked that. So the next day I called him, and I said, if I'm out of line here, this is kind of a stupid question. I go, thinking about our meeting yesterday, were you wanting me to maybe want to, throw my hat in the ring? And he goes, I would love you to throw your hat in the ring. And I said, well, yeah, I would love to. And he goes, okay, we need to have an official interview then. It's got to be official, and it's got to have
Team president.
McClatchy.
Oh, and
He goes,
the owner at the time.
He goes, McClatchy's going to have to be here too. So I went in, and we basically did the same thing, all over again, in front of McClatchy. Wow. And Kevin asked a few questions too, but it was just like everything we'd done before. Actually, this meeting was a little bit shorter because we'd already done all this.
When you left the meeting, did you think, you know what? You didn't think?
I had no idea. I had an inside man, you know who it was.
Yeah, I know.
That called me, and he said, man, they really like you.
Mm.
He goes, I think you got a chance. And then a couple days later, they said that you were close, but we're going to go with Mac.
Uh-huh.
And I was fine with that. I mean, you're talking about the guy that had his locker right next to mine
Lloyd
for
McClendon.
like the last 3 years of my major league career. Wow. I mean, me and Lloyd knew each other very well. I mean, we talked all the time about stuff. I was happy as hell that here one of my buddies is going to be the manager of the team. This is great. So I was very happy with that. And I just started a new career that was going very well announcing. I think on like my first multi-year contract, and I was like, hey, that's great. I'm happy where I'm at. I would have loved to have got the job, but things happen for a reason.
We'll have Bob back on Hold My Cutter for sure, because there's way, way too much to talk about. Bob, this is unbelievable.
Full circle.
Yeah. So we'll look forward to many more episodes with
Sure.
you.
Love it.
Hold my cutter. Bob, how do you hold your cutter?
Like that. I didn't throw a cutter, by the
Fort-
way. I called that a little short slider.
That's what they called it back in the day. You had
Slider, yeah.
yeah, short slider, and then you got on
You can
top
hold
of
that
when you
cutter
needed
too,
to.
Bob.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, here we go.
Yeah.
Short slider. Like a
There we
fastball
go.
four-seamer. The cutter actually spins like this when
There
you
you
throw
go.
it. But if you pull down on the side just a little bit, you get this little spin as it's going in there and it wants to move. That's how you hold your cutter.
It's been fun, man.
It has.
Thanks.
It has.
Enjoyed it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Enjoyed it.
You're a
Thank you.
legend. Appreciate you.